I think for me, growing up was, I think the main people who influenced my career decisions were my parents. So it was we were encouraged to do what we were good at, which was nice. And in school, it turned out I really enjoyed doing the sciences, biology and chemistry. I wouldn't say physics, didn't really enjoy physics that much. And my mom was a nurse and also had done a degree in biology. So the books were all there in the house in her library. So I was exposed to that. I'll say my older siblings, because I'm the youngest in my family, also chose science careers. So I was exposed to it from an early age. But I think the main driving force was the fact that I enjoyed doing sciences in school. And we were encouraged to do what we're good at. So I went with pursuing my A-levels in biology and chemistry and trying to excel in that. Yeah. I think early on in my career, no. I think everything I experienced was based on merit. So even getting into grad school was merit-based. And there was, I guess also at that time, there's always a push that if there were female scientists who wanted to do PhDs, they were encouraged. But even when we got there and you were with other female colleagues, we realized we were there based on merit. And then there was no particular bias or emphasis on gender when I was doing my PhD, even in my undergraduate, actually. Yeah. Into my postdoc, coming back. So I did my undergraduate and graduate school in the UK, coming back to Kenya to do my postdoc. Again, it was all competitive. You got to where you're going based on merit. So I wasn't even aware of gender. And yeah, you just got on and did your science because you were good at doing it. And you did it to the best of your ability. I will say, though, that having joined a public institution here in Kenya, as for a different experience of doing science in a public institution, I'm currently in what we call a private one. That's when I became aware of gender. And realizing that it was a public university, realizing that in those institutions, there weren't very many female at the helm doing science. And when you went to meetings, so it was, College of Sciences, and you go to these meetings where, like college management board meetings, and you meet other heads of departments and equivalent staff at equivalent level, there weren't very many females. So the females we saw are those who were in the administrative department who were at those meetings. So it made me realize that I can see now why gender becomes an issue in some universities, because there are very few women in those positions. And then at that time, you also expected, funnily, that you're the woman, you take the minutes. Again, I only experienced those in sort of public institutions, and then I became aware. I think through that, just being aware of it, changed the way I communicate with people, not in a bad way, but I had to be clear in my communication to try and get things done. But I also realized I have to do what I'm doing, keep doing it, even though sometimes it was difficult, and just do it well. So I tried again not to focus too much on the gender, and just thought, let me just get on and do my work, because I love doing science. And I'll mentor those that come, that I train, and do that to the best of my ability. Yeah. Yes, yes, for sure. There are times where you slow down. Your career takes a back footing. And that's particularly in cases when you start having children, you get married, you make those decisions to get married. So when I did my PhD, I was single, so there were no decisions to make. I just got on and I could do 24 hours, 7 days a week of science, and into my postdoc. But then I realized that work-life balance came into play as I was thinking of getting married and then having children, and how do I balance work? For me as well, a bit of physical location of where I'm doing my work and the decisions that I made. And so I have 3 children. So during that period of having my 3 children, particularly with the first one, things slowed down a bit. Because you minimize some of the things you have to do in the office. I think with my first child, because it's a new experience, you're thinking, maybe I shouldn't do too much because I still need to figure out what I'm doing here in the home. But I will say, by the time I got to my 3rd child, I was even working from home on maternity leave. And I'd say a bit of personal training of how do I balance work and home. And even now, I'm doing it even more so. So in my mind, I always think between sort of 0 and 1, when the child's between 0 and 1 years, it takes, the child takes a lot of my time. So the career takes a back step. But as my children have gotten older, I've found more time to do my stuff, my work, but also even my relaxation things. Even if it's just read a storybook, I find out. And then now, for me, career is picking up again, and I'm able to engage more in work and more responsibilities in the office, and at work. And then looking back, I make no regrets for the choices I made in terms of slowing down, because I think family is I remember hearing this once before in some supervisory training I'd gone for, that your personal life is a glass ball, and if you drop it, you don't get to pick it up again, and you're picking up pieces. But work is a rubber ball, so you can bounce it and bounce back, and you can pick up and keep going. And my life to date is a true testament of that. I dropped the ball, but then it's bounced back up, and I'm able to pick up my career and move. And I'm glad I took the time to invest in my children. And now even, I still have to make sure I'm out of the office by 5 so I can go do homework and everything. But it also makes me efficient. So between 8 and 5, I have to make sure I tick all my boxes and use my time wisely. So if it means cutting out tea break, then that's fine, so that I can leave 5 or 6 p.m. latest and get home and do stuff. No, I don't. I know we get family support here, and it's more cost effective to have a nanny here. So I definitely give thanks to my nannies who support me when I'm in office, and a supportive husband as well. He's had to understand what is involved in my career and everything. The challenges are still the same. I still have to write as many papers, write as many grants, and there's still the same competition of my time. So how much time do I split with family and work? So as much as you get support is good, but there's no substitution for maternal input into the family. And I think it's a big thing in Africa anyway. Everyone's expecting the mother to be there when there's a family event. You're supposed to be there. If it's not even the nuclear family, it's extended family. It's not your in-laws, it's your own family. So there's more pressure on our time as African women, really. Our family is not nuclear. And it's the husband's family, it's the cousins. And when you go up country, it's the neighbors, because they all make part of the village. So there's a lot. I think as a woman, it's been learning to delegate. So getting good support at home, like you mentioned, whether it's nanny support or parents or siblings, getting that good support at home, because that keeps you stable, it keeps you sane, and having good mentors. And that will vary over the course of your career. At one point, maybe it's your PhD supervisor who's also your mentor, or it's a colleague that you're working with. It could be a mentor who's your peer as well. It's not only people who are ahead of you who can advise you on what you need to do at whatever time in your career. So it will help you prioritize, because sometimes you feel, I've got to do everything. So And then that's when you feel overwhelmed. But if you prioritize what you need to do now in the short term and then in the long term, it really does help reduce some of the stresses that you have. And then coming up with a plan as well. One of the great things I had exposure to in my PhD was called a personal development plan. It was used for work. So you think, where do you want to be in the next 5 years? And what are the baby steps you need to take to get to your 5-year plan? But I realized it worked for me as well in the family setting. So I may not have set up a plan for it, but it helped me stagger what I was doing. So I wasn't overwhelmed and I didn't feel like I needed to do everything in this year, but I can spread it out. And then over my 5-year plan, I'll get to where I'm going to be. So don't panic. It happens to everybody, but have a plan and get good mentorship support, and ask around for advice. Talk to people because their experiences can shape some of what you do, and you might find you don't really need to reinvent the wheel for what you're doing. And platforms like this that you're setting up is great as well. So if you can find other women who can walk alongside you and just tell you it's okay, you can have a down day, have a cry, but then pick yourself up and keep going. And particularly if you're passionate about doing science and writing those grants, which are tough, keep at it. And one of the other lessons I learned was about feedback. I think the first time I got a rejection, I can't remember whether it was on a manuscript or a proposal. I really felt gutted, but then I realized I've got to separate. It's feedback not about me, the person, it's about my piece of work. And then when you're able to do that, you receive feedback well, and then you can take the lessons from the feedback and help it shape whatever you're doing in your next grant or in the next manuscript. Yeah, and just keep going as much as you can, but do get support. If you absolutely need it, do get support, because that's important. It will keep you going.